Welcome to Living a Full Life podcast. Join us as we explore health topics that encourage raising healthy children, living a healthy life, and living the best life possible. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Enrico Dolcecore, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Living a Full Life, where we explore natural topics on how you can live a healthy life along with your family naturally, effectively, and easily. I hope these podcasts bring you some easy methods that you can bring into your life and help you and your family live healthier. Thanks for joining us for another week. And today's topic, regulating your nervous system. This one's a big topic. I mean, when it comes to the nervous system, there's so many amazing things that it does. It does everything, to be completely honest. And we call the nervous system, the anatomic parts of the nervous system are our brain, sits in our skull, and our spinal column, our spinal cord, which is a long elongation tail of the brain. Those two connected together, those two in unison, act as the central nervous system. Then it branches out like the electrical fuse box in your garage or your basement into the peripheral nervous system. All those fuses and all those electrical wires that come out of there act as your peripheral nervous system. So we're going to be talking about the central nervous system and its branches, the parasympathetic and sympathetic branches. If you took high school biology, you may have learned that the parasympathetic part of the nervous system is the rest and digest phase of your nervous system. It's what calms down your heart rate, regulates blood pressure, rest and digest. We call it digestion starts to happen in the parasympathetic phase, peristalsis, everything that happens to help absorb nutrition. Then the sympathetic side is fight or flight. And these are our two branches of our nervous system. And that happens when you exercise or you have to go for a run or you're stressed or you're stimulated by caffeine or from physical stimulation. Maybe someone almost hits you in traffic and you get startled. These little things are our sympathetic drive, and we are supposed to live in a balance between the two. It's called homeostasis of our nervous system. And if we stay between the two, we are in a healthy state. We're balanced. We're not too over sympathetic. We're not too over parasympathetic. And we stay in a healthy state where the body regulates very with ease. And when we function with ease, we prevent a lot of dis-ease. Make sense? That's where, so when we go one side or the other, we start to perpetuate the onslaught or the starting of dis-ease. It's where the word comes from, disease. We start with this hyphenated word, dis-ease. And the longer we stay in that phase, we can envelop or develop diseases. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So that's your nervous system in a nutshell, the central nervous system. The importance of it is to maintain balance. And when we're talking about regulating our nervous system, it's like, well, what can I do to regulate my nervous system's function? How do I even control that when it controls me? Well, you'd be surprised what things we can do. And being mindful and focused can go a long way when focusing on altering our nervous system. So mindful practices like meditation, deep breathing, even yoga or stretching can promote relaxation and stress reduction. So there's different types that we can do. And I brought up a couple right there: Tai Chi, yoga, even some forms of martial arts, Taekwondo, and the pattern analysis in Taekwondo of just going through the motions and following a pattern can be fantastic nervous system regulation because of the control physically and mentally at the same time of remembering the pattern. Even dance, choreography, all these things, and doing something that you enjoy. It's the breathing along with the motion that regulates the nervous system. It takes your mind off of thought and puts it towards physical motion. And then the mindfulness comes in the actual motion. All you're thinking about is the next step and to perform it well. Those are fantastic. Even just regular exercise where it's kind of mindless, maybe like on a treadmill or steady state cardio on a stationary bike. These things are absolutely fantastic in regulating our nervous system. Aerobic exercises, strength training, walking, swimming, all these things in the moment of doing these things regulates our nervous system. And it has great benefits and side effects to it as well. Of course, of endurance, heart, cardiovascular health, circulation, breathing O2 max, sleep improvements. Lots of things happen when we regularly exercise. But the side effect to this is the nervous system. And we live in a world where we don't have time for all this stuff. And we wonder why our nervous systems, and I've always wanted to use this word in a podcast, so here it comes. This is why our nervous systems are discombobulated. They're just not organized, is because we just don't give them the time to heal. Our children do a lot of stuff if you watch them, and their stress level mentally is a little bit lower. They don't have the weight of the world on their shoulders yet. So you get to see this free play that they do, but they sleep like rocks. So I don't know about you. My 3 kids sleep like rocks. And they wake up and ready to rock and roll. They're groggy for about 30 seconds. I'm groggy for about 30 minutes. So they wake up and they're ready to rock and roll because sleep is doing what it needs to do for them in the healing phase and reorganization phase at night. They're getting good REM sleep and they wake up and they're ready to rock and roll. Us, because we're missing out on the time to work on our nervous system and our work on ourselves, our sleep starts to take effect. And it's just this negative cascade, this negative spin, tornado that starts to happen of just negative effects of just not focusing on ourselves for years, not exercising for years. Then we start to not sleep for years. And we wonder why we start to get high triglycerides. Our A1C starts to get out of control. We get fatigue. We get joint pain. These are the starts of disease. This is the starting of disease. And we call them symptoms, but we have to relate to these things and give ourselves the time to focus on nervous system regulation. It's maybe a fancy word of saying sleep well and exercise, but it's a little bit more mindful than that. So we talk about sleep hygiene, and I've got a few podcasts on sleep, just on sleep, which you can go back to and listen to. But the relationship between sleep and the nervous system is a beautiful dance that if you don't have one, you really don't have functioning of the other. And to improve sleep, what we need to do is just understand how the nervous system works. In order to get proper sleep, we need to decrease stimulation, which is visual, auditory, tactile, since smells. I mean, you got to get rid of everything. To really get a good night's sleep is to desensitize our rooms. So blacking it out as much as possible, taking out all digital clocks, digital lights, LED lights, taking these things out of the room. Peace and quiet. For those of you that live in cities and have lived in cities your whole life and always had honking and traffic and all that, they can be a little daunting to sleep in a perfectly quiet room. Kind of eerie sometimes, and then that doesn't let you sleep. So having maybe a sound machine or a sound wave in there can help you as well. But just getting that environment, your room, just your room, the one spot on the planet in the universe where you can just truly desensitize and relax, should be a little bit more thoughtful. Take some time and really look at ways to improve that sensation. If you sleep beside a snorer and it affects you, the logical solution to this is either suffocate your spouse or sleep in another room. Right? Don't do the first one. Please don't do that. So we got to think about ourselves, right? If it's truly not, there's no solution to the problem, then we have to find a solution to the problem, and that may be sleeping in a different room to improve your sleep. And as we age, this becomes more and more important because the time we have to sleep just naturally decreases. It may be 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, but those hours have to count. So that's important there. And then we get into diet to regulate our nervous system. What are some things that you can focus on to help stimulate your nervous system? And I think here's a little bit of an inverse of what I've told people about diet and exercise all the time, and the things that we focus on about protein and lean muscle mass and metabolic rate and all these good things, is now to really think about your omega-3 and 6 branched chain fatty acids. That's where we need to really focus on and make sure we're getting these things. Foods such as fish, flaxseed, avocado, coconut oil, olive oil, olives, all these things are highly dense in omega-3 fatty acids. These are really important for your nervous system and your brain to heal and replenish. And we live in a world in the American diet where these are considerably low just because our fish consumption is low, and our shrimp and our krill and all that stuff. It's low, just we don't get that very often. So we definitely have to supplement this with an omega-3 supplement. This is one that's a must for most people, is to have an enteric coated small fish like krill, fish oil, to minimize toxins from the ocean, but also to make sure that you get a slow release in the gut. And at about 1,000 or 1,500 milligrams per day is good. And it's usually 1 or 2 capsules that you need to take per day. Make it part of your routine and your supplements. The best investment you can have is omega-3 fatty acids. If you're truly vegetarian and don't eat fish, then you can do a flaxseed supplement as well. There's other options as well. Cook with coconut oil, cook with olive oil. These are ways to get your omega-3s. And these really help with the nervous system. And have a balanced diet rich in nutrients for the nervous system, both of fruits, vegetables, proteins. You got to have the whole thing working on you so that your system, your body is working ideally, so that your brain doesn't have to overwork to fight dis-ease. The more at ease your body is, the less your nervous system has to work on overdrive. And that's a great rule to follow there. If you want to test your nervous system, heart rate variability can tell you so much about your static and your dynamic function of your nervous system. Controlling heart rate and the variability in your heart rate from moment to moment, from different times in the day, can tell us a lot about how your nervous system regulates. In our office, we use heart rate variability on every single person that comes in. It gives us a quick little snippet on their nervous system and how they function. And then we can plot this on a graph of sympathetic and parasympathetic and teach them. It gives us a moment to teach them. And I'm going to teach you about what we look at in this graph. It plots it into almost like a dartboard, where think of the bullseye a little bit higher on the graph at 100. And it just, the middle of the bullseye is green, and then it goes yellow, a yellow ring around that, then an orange ring around that, and a red ring around that. And you want to be in the green. And it's boxed off, and it shows you if you're in the green, you're functioning at higher than 80%, and you're staying within 80 to 100% balance between the parasympathetic and sympathetic parts of your nervous system. So the x-axis, left to right, is the balance between the nervous system, and the y-axis, up and down, is how well you function. And we want to be as close to 100 as we can, right? So you do this test. You can sit there for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want. It gives us a quick graph on your heart rate variability, and that's the pulse and the beats per second or per millisecond, and just showing the variability in there. Someone on a pacemaker has a battery operated machine implanted in their chest that keeps their heart beating at a specific rhythm. The heart rate variability test will actually show this person very low on the score because there is no variability. So the machine's like, well, hang on a second. We got a skin temperature there. So obviously they're alive. They're warm. But this is weird. Why is their heart rate beating every 0.3 of a second? And it never deviates for 3 minutes. The machine will actually have this constant state, and it will give them a very low score saying that this person's next to dead, right? But we know that. We talk to the patient, we know that they have a pacemaker, that's fine. But that's an example of steady state heart rate control. Most of us do not have that. We have from second to second, from minute to minute, very different controls in our heart rate, different controls in the pulse and in the beat. And that is what makes us healthy, cardiovascular wise. The more variation in the heartbeat, the better within a certain parameter. We stay within that parameter. We don't have tachycardia. We don't have bradycardia. We don't have exceptionally high, arrhythmia or anything like that. If we stay within the normal healthy heart ranges, we'll have a range that is very variable. And if we did it the next day, a completely different graph, but within those parameters. And those people will score over 80, and they're in the green box, and we're like, wow, this is fantastic. But guess what kind of scores we normally get? After doing thousands of these over 17 years, we got amazing data. And you can see most people are functioning, very low and sympathetic, and they're overdrive sympathetically because of the lives we live in North America. We're go, 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 work, 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 try and squeeze in some sleep, barely get exercise, and hopefully our diets are somewhere close to nutritious. Isn't that the truth? So that's where we're at here. And it makes it very difficult to regulate our nervous systems when we live like that. And the data shows it. But if you want to take a moment, find a heart rate variability. There are apps, and some of your digital watches will show you your heart rate variability. They're pretty accurate. So you can look at these things, and then hopefully there's an algorithm to the app that you're using that shows you a score, maybe 1 out of 100 or 1 out of 10, and tells you your range and whether you're in a healthy range or not a healthy range. And then you can start implementing mindfulness, meditation, yoga, breathing exercises, whatever it may be, to start regulating your nervous system. Breathing is such a great way to regulate your nervous system. Look into breathing exercises. We'll do a podcast on breathing. I should write that down, on breathing exercises and how to breathe and how to help your nervous system through that, and how to regulate emotion and stress. That's a great one. And the beginner's guides on YouTube are fantastic on breathing, on how to just sit still and breathe and feel the air, fill your lungs, and then breathe in again and fill them even deeper, and breathe in again and fill them even deeper. You'll be amazed how many more times you can fill your lungs after you filled them. So when we tell people breathe in, hold, and then breathe in some more, hold, and then breathe in some more, hold. And you're like, what the? You always stop at that first breath. And most of us barely breathe in deeply. We are shallow breathers. So when you teach yourself to breathe in deeply, just that first inhale, breathing in and expanding the lungs, that's a great start. But then you realize you can breathe in again. And you're like, whoa, man, there's more room in there. And then you breathe in again. You're like, well, there's even more room in there. How is there so much room in there? And then you breathe out. It feels so good to breathe out. And then you start to learn how to connect your mind to breathing. That's it. But the beginner guide is just breathing, just learning how to expand your diaphragm and expand your lungs. And that can take days or weeks to learn how to get there and feel good when you do it. And sometimes you can feel where your back tension is too when you're breathing. Like, why is my upper back so tight? And you learn things about your posture as well, which can improve that as well. There's a lot of great side effects. Start with breathing if you truly want to learn how to regulate your nervous system, which I encourage you to do, because it just decreases overall stress. It's an amazing thing to do. Try that. We'll do a podcast on breathing. I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic. If you have questions, reach out to us about this stuff. And of course, there are therapists out there that specialize and are completely focused on the central nervous system. Neurologists in the medical field are looking for disease, not the hyphenated part. They're looking for disease. If you go see a neurologist, they're going to run through tests, brain scans, brain MRIs, nerve conductance tests, orthopedic, neurological tests, eye exams. They're going to do all of that to find disease. Hey, glad you came in today, Nancy. Your eyes are not tracking right. Your reflexes are diminished. And we took a brain scan and you have a tumor. Well, I mean, that's the last conversation I ever want to have in my life, is to get to that far, right? So neurologists are there for pathology, right? Chiropractors, and especially functional trained or functional neurological chiropractors, are the ones in our society right now in North America that are doing this work with the central nervous system, on adjusting the proprioceptive parts of the nervous system in the central nervous system, which is the spine. You can even do joints. You can do ankles and wrists and all these things, which play a role in that as well, and have equipment in their office directly structured around the central nervous system and stimulating and connecting the brain, left and right brain. And they can even do eye testing, eye exercises. They can do laser work, red light work. They can light up the brain. And then that's where you get a lot of people who start chiropractic care have all these other positive side effects to it, where they sleep better, they feel less stressed. And then they're like, how is this working? I came in with back pain. Like, because we're lighting up the entire nervous system every time we adjust you. And there's specific techniques, tonal techniques, that are used in chiropractic to help stimulate the nervous system as well. Not stimulate, regulate, to help regulate the nervous system. When you go into a rehab type office with physical therapy and chiropractic, you may get overstimulated in the nervous system because of the amount of adjusting or the amount of therapy that you get that day, which is not a bad thing. It's to help you through your injury and get you better faster. But constantly getting adjusted like that keeps you in a state of sympathetic drive. So chiropractors that know and work with the nervous system will try and balance that at the beginning, help you get out of pain, and then help balance your nervous system. So I encourage you to find a tonal or functional neurological chiropractor in your area and start to ask them questions, or start to have them in your back, or get established with them. That way you can always book an appointment in the future when you need it. That's my best advice to have for you there, and something to think outside the box. Chiropractors are not just back pain doctors. They do a lot of this regulating stuff, and they talk about nutrition, they talk about sleep, because these are the fundamental principles to good health. They just don't all have a podcast like I do. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic week. Stay healthy, and God.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Living a Full Life podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.